My wife left me off my 50th and hid 5 years of cheating, so I hired a PI, proved paternity fraud, took revenge, and ended the marriage for good. Turning 50 was supposed to be a milestone, but in the weeks leading up to it, something felt off. My wife Willow got secretive, closing her laptop when I walked in, whispering on the phone. When I asked what was going on, she'd just smile and say, "Be patient, Norm." My daughter, Piper, 20, was in on it too, flashing those knowing grins and teasing, "You're going to love what's coming for your big 5-0. Even my son, Tomas, 23, usually detached and aloof, hinted that something special was brewing. I figured they were planning a surprise party or maybe a weekend trip. Not that we're rich, we're comfortable, with Piper's college tuition eating into our savings. I just loaned Tomas $4,000 for his first apartment, money I didn't really have, but that's what dads do. Otis, my father-in-law, called out of the blue to ask what day I was taking off for my birthday. Unusual behavior unless he needed something. I told him Tuesday, the actual date. That Tuesday at 6:15 a.m., my boss called about an emergency at the Riverside project. No one else could handle it. I called Willow from the car to say I'd be late but home for dinner. She sounded distracted, just said, "That works out fine," and hung up. I worked through the day fixing a busted water main and equipment failures. Nobody at work knew it was my birthday, and I didn't say anything. I bought myself a bottle of the good whiskey on the way home, thinking at least something nice is waiting. When I pulled into the driveway at 5:53 p.m., no extra cars, no signs of life. Inside, the house was dark and empty, no decorations, no note, no family. I checked my phone, no messages, no missed calls. I called Willow, voicemail. Tomas, voicemail. Texted Piper, nothing. By 7:30, I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the whiskey, wondering if something had happened. I called the hospital, nothing. Called Willow's sister, Lindsay, no answer. At 8:14, still alone, I poured myself a glass. Then I checked Instagram. That's when I saw it, a post from 3 hours earlier. My entire family, Willow, Tomas, Piper, Otis, Kinsley, and Lindsay, all grinning on a beach at some resort, cocktails in hand. The caption from Tomas read, "Family vacation mode activated. He won't even notice we're gone. LOL. I stared. Willow had commented with a laughing emoji, and so true. Lindsay made a dig about workaholic husbands not appreciating the finer things. Piper didn't comment, but she was in the photo, looking thrilled. I kept scrolling, jet skis, poolside selfies, sunset dinners, all time-stamped, geotagged. They'd left 2 days ago, well before my birthday. This had been planned, not spontaneous, not last minute, and it didn't include me. I'm not a pushover, never have been, but I can't lie, in that moment, I felt slapped. My pride took a massive hit. 25 years of marriage, 2 kids, all the hours I've poured into supporting them, and they do this. For a minute, I tasted raw betrayal, but I shoved it down. I learned a long time ago that when you show vulnerability, people see weakness. I promised myself no one would see me as weak ever again. So I do what I'm good at, I plan. I check our joint bank account and see a withdrawal of $4,000, matching the amount I'd given Tomas. Coincidence? I think not. I scroll older posts. Otis had been hinting about a family trip for a while. This wasn't spontaneous at all. It was orchestrated with precision around my absence. By midnight, my emotional storm morphs into this icy cold. I crack my knuckles and start collecting evidence. Screenshots of posts, logs of calls, bank statements. Because let's face it, if they're going to cut me out of a family vacation on my birthday, they're going to find out that I'm not just going to shrug. I always have a plan B. That's the side of me people call villain, but I say it's just being prepared. You don't become successful by letting folks walk all over you. 2 a.m, I uncover something that rips off the final shreds of my sympathy. Willow has a secret credit card, $113,000 in debt, designer everything, endless spa charges, fancy lunches, the works, all behind my back. I do get angry, like really angry, but I keep it contained. I can use anger like a tool, focusing it into something more constructive. My mind's already on how to handle the financial blowback, but first, I think they have to come home. Morning arrives, and I realize I have 0 birthday messages from them. They're living it up. They honestly believe I won't notice or care, which, ironically, might be half true. I've been so caught up in my own ways for years, that's on me, but still, they're the ones posting about how I'm basically irrelevant. No, that doesn't sit right. I head to work, ignoring the phone for the entire day. Nothing from Willow or the kids. The next day is more of the same, more beach pictures. Piper partying, Tomas tagging himself at a karaoke bar with Otis. Willow's telling her friends online that she's in heaven, far from real life. I guess I'm real life, the burden she needed a vacation from. Good to know. Day 3 since they left, I finally get a text from Piper. Hey Dad, how's it going? My blood nearly boils. How's it going? Like we're old neighbors passing each other in the grocery store. No happy belated birthday. No sorry we forgot about you, just casual small talk. I ignore it. An hour later, Tomas texts, Dad, can you check if I left my laptop charger in my old room? Not a word about the trip. Nothing about my birthday. Sure, kid. Let me rummage around the house I pay for to find your charger while you're sipping margaritas on my dime. I ignore that too. By evening, the tone changes. Dad, are you mad? Mom's worried. Dad, can you just say something? Daddy, please text back so we know you're okay. Okay. I say nothing. Instead, I snap a picture of myself with a store-bought birthday cake. My pathetic attempt at celebrating days late. I post it on Instagram with no caption. Let them see how I spent the day they forgot. That's my opening salvo. Sure enough, within an hour, the messages blow up. Willow's in panic mode. Piper's sending voice notes with tears. Tomas tries half-hearted jokes. Otis even calls me childish in a voicemail. Because in their eyes, I'm the villain for ignoring them while they're on a beach sipping cocktails. That's rich. I count 47 messages before midnight. Willow's last one says, We're coming home tomorrow. Please be there. We need to talk. I almost laugh. They need to talk? Well, now they do. They sure didn't need to talk when they left me behind. So I stop by a hardware store, buy a new deadbolt, and spend the rest of the night deciding how to handle their return. Because they can come home, but they'll find out soon enough that I'm not in a mood to play nice. Day 4. I'm off from work. I told my boss I needed time to handle personal business. He knows better than to pry. By mid-afternoon, I hear an Uber pull up, then luggage wheels on the driveway. I make them wait, ignoring the doorbell twice. Finally, I open up, and there they are, Willow dressed in some new sundress, clutching a gift bag she definitely didn't buy for me until maybe the last minute. Tomas sporting a fresh tan, eyes darting everywhere but my face. Piper, lips trembling like she's about to cry. And behind them, Otis and Kinsley, both looking like they smelled something foul. No one speaks for a good 10 seconds. I can feel my heart pounding, and that slow burn of anger is about to flare. Finally, Willow breaks the silence. Norman, we've been so worried. We called the hospitals, we tried everything. Yeah, I say, voice flat. Did you try calling me on my birthday? She falters, tries a different tack. Look, the trip was to celebrate your 50th in a different way. We got delayed, and I wanted to surprise you when we got back. I don't even let her finish. I hold up my phone, open Instagram, show them Tomas's post with that line. He won't even notice we're gone. LOL. I practically shove it in Willow's face. The color drains from her cheeks. Piper's crying for real now. Tomas just stares at his shoes. Otis steps up, huffing like the big shot he is. This is ridiculous, Norman. Let's go inside and talk like civilized people. You don't need to rub it in their faces. I cut him off with a sharp hand gesture. Otis, I'm not dealing with you today. Drop the luggage and leave. He puffs out his chest. You don't tell me. I step forward into his space. Actually, I do. It's my house. You're not welcome here right now. Don't push me. That gets him sputtering, not used to anyone telling him no. Kinsley tries to back him up, but I stare her down too. Finally, Otis leaves the luggage with a loud thump and storms off with Kinsley trailing. Willow's voice trembles. Norman, please, we just need to talk. I let them in, ignoring Otis's glowering face in the driveway. The moment they step inside, the air practically crackles with tension. The house feels smaller with them in it, like too many emotions are jammed into one space. Willow notices right away her things aren't in our bedroom. What did you do with my stuff? She demands, voice shrill. I moved it. Guest room. I keep my tone calm, but there's an edge. Don't worry, it's safe. She starts to protest, but I cut her off by dumping a full folder on the kitchen table, screenshots of their social media posts, transaction records, that huge credit card debt. Before we talk about anything else, I say we talk about this, all of this. I want you to read every line carefully, and then you tell me when exactly I became the man you could brush off like trash. Willow flips through the pages, face drained of blood. Tomas glances at a few screenshots, then tries to wave it off. Dad, it was a joke. Everybody jokes on social media. You're overreacting. This is toxic. I jab a finger at him. You watch your mouth, kid. Who's being toxic? The father who's paid your rent, your tuition, your bills? Or the son who posted that I'm basically non-existent? Piper just stands there, tears rolling down her cheeks, stammering something about how she didn't mean to hurt me. I almost feel sorry for her. But that beach photo of her grinning without a care is fresh in my mind. Willow eventually looks up from the folder. This was supposed to be a break for all of us, a chance to unwind. Otis offered it, and we thought, "Stop right there," I say, controlling my voice so it doesn't shake with anger. "I know about the secret credit card, Willow. I know about the lunches with your sister that cost a fortune. And I sure know about the way you all laughed at me while I was busting my back on that Riverside job. So don't feed me more nonsense about how this was a gift to me." She tries a last-ditch defense. "You're so obsessed with money, Norman, always counting every penny. Maybe I wanted something more from life than your daily lectures." I snort. "Oh, I see. You wanted more, so you jetted off on my birthday with my kids using my money, and you didn't think I'd be pissed? Got it." Her eyes brim with tears, but I can't tell if they're genuine regret or just frustration. "We were planning to celebrate with, what, another credit card you keep hidden? Or Otis's inheritance? 'Cause I sure didn't see any reservations made in my name." Tomas storms off, muttering under his breath that I'm so unfair. Piper flees to her room, crying. Willow just stands there, stuck somewhere between fury and shame. I can't help but take a grim satisfaction in seeing her illusions crumble. Does that make me a villain? Probably. But in that moment, I feel justified. That night, Willow moves to the guest room. I was still running hot with anger, an anger I had never truly let out before. It sat in my gut like a block of smoldering coal, fueling every breath I took. Willow had retreated to the guest room, presumably to sleep off the tension of our confrontations, while Tomas and Piper holed up in their old bedrooms, each of them apparently too shaken to speak more than a mumbled apology or complaint. Around 11, I roamed the house, trying to process everything. Anger, however, thrives on the smallest sparks. Mine kept flaring each time I remembered how they laughed on that beach, how they seemed to forget about me until I posted that lonely birthday cake photo. Eventually, I went into the hallway and saw Willow's suitcases lined against the wall. She must have brought them from the front door when she came in, suitcases she'd taken to the resort. Something inside me snapped. I need to see how far this betrayal goes. I need to see if anything else is hidden. I crouched by the largest suitcase and unzipped it slowly. Right on top were her sandals and an expensive-looking cover-up I'd never seen before, tags still attached, likely another item she'd splurged on without telling me. Next, I shifted aside a bundle of clothes. Then my hand brushed something unexpected, a small plastic bag that held a pair of men's boxer briefs. My first thought was that perhaps they belonged to Tomas, somehow misplaced, but these were huge, definitely larger than anything Tomas would wear. My son is lean, built like a runner. These boxers were for someone broader, taller. I found another t-shirt, obviously worn. I lifted it to my nose. A wave of cologne wafted out, nothing like my brand. My spine turned rigid. I dug deeper, searching with trembling hands, until I found more men's items. Another t-shirt, an undershirt, a worn belt, all smelled faintly of the same cologne. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. Who do these belong to? Willow's suitcase was stuffed with tangible evidence of something, someone else. I shot to my feet, vision tunneled with rage. Forget confronting her calmly, this was beyond that. I marched to the guest room, flung the door open, and flicked on the overhead light. Willow jolted awake, squinting at me in confusion. "What's your problem, Norman?" she demanded, voice gravelly with sleep. I hurled the t-shirt onto the bed. "Who is that?" I growled. She blinked, then tried to grab it. "Give that to me. Not until you tell me who it belongs to," I roared, my voice echoing off the walls. Behind me, I heard Tomas's door open. Piper shuffled into the hallway, looking pale. They stared into the guest room, seeing me stand over Willow with a t-shirt dangling from my hand like incriminating evidence. "Mom," Piper's voice trembled. "What's going on?" Willow shot Piper a desperate look. "This is nothing, just, yeah, Norman's overreacting. Probably from that whiskey he's been drinking." I let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, I'm overreacting? Maybe you can explain how an extra-large pair of boxers ended up in your suitcase. Maybe you can explain how they smell like some cologne I've never worn in my life." "It's mine," Tomas blurted, stepping forward. "Sometimes I wear extra baggy clothes to sleep. You know, like pajamas." I spun on him. "Don't you try lying to me, boy. These are at least 2 sizes, bigger than you'd ever need. Let's see if you can fit in them." I crumpled the boxers in one fist and practically slammed them into Tomas's chest. He nearly toppled back from my aggression, arms raised defensively. Piper cut in, voice shaking. "Dad, calm down. Just calm down. This isn't what you think. Maybe they got mixed up in the resort laundry." "Mixed up?" I was practically shouting. "You're going to stand there and tell me these just appeared in your mother's suitcase? Don't feed me that nonsense." Willow stood, her expression flipping between anger and a tinge of panic. "I don't have to explain every little thing to you, Norman. I'm an adult. If something ended up in my suitcase from the hotel or from the laundry service, it's none of your business. That final phrase tore the last thread of restraint I had. None of my business? I hissed. The day you and the kids left me behind to party with your father, you gave up the right to secrecy in my home. I strode to the suitcase, yanked it off the floor, and began flinging her belongings out the window in a blind fury: blouses, beach covers, fancy sandals, each soaring into the darkness of the yard. Willow screamed, rushing to stop me, but I used my free arm to block her. You want your stuff? Go pick it off the lawn. Dad, stop it, Piper cried. She dashed over to me, trying to pull my arm down. Tomas grabbed my shoulder. Come on, old man, this is insane. I shook them both off. Stay out of this, I shouted. You and your sister have lied to me for days, maybe months. You made a fool out of me while I was working on my birthday. Don't you dare try to calm me down now. Willow lunged for the suitcase, but I swung it sideways, sending the last of its contents tumbling out the window. She whirled on me, tears in her eyes. You want to humiliate me? Fine. You think I owe you an explanation? Maybe if you weren't so controlling about money, maybe if you paid some attention to my needs, none of this would have happened. I threw the empty suitcase aside. Get out, I snarled. All of you. Just get out of my sight tonight. Piper and Tomas glanced at their mother, wide-eyed. Willow faced them, voice trembling with anger. Pack a few things. We're going to my parents' house. I'm done with your father's rages. They hurried to their rooms. I didn't move, but I felt my chest heaving with every breath. Willow shot me a poisonous glare. We're leaving, but this is far from over, Norman. I watched as they gathered a few items, shoes, phone chargers, jackets, and fled into the night, slamming the front door behind them. Only after the house fell silent did I realize my hands were shaking. On the lawn below the guest room window, Willow's clothes lay in a scattered heap, some snagged on bushes or half submerged in the wet grass. I stepped away, locked the door. My mind was a dark cloud of suspicion and hurt. Who is that man whose clothes were in her suitcase? I couldn't sleep, not even for a minute. Morning dawned on an empty, quiet house. I realized with grim satisfaction that I didn't have to worry about Willow popping in or the kids ignoring me under my own roof. But that satisfaction was tempered by raw betrayal. I'd expected them to come back in a fury. Instead, they stayed away. Not so much as a text from Willow. Fine by me. My next move was methodical. First, I changed every exterior lock, deadbolts, doorknobs, you name it. Then I took a shower, got dressed, and made a call to a local private investigator named Marsden, recommended by a friend who'd gone through a nasty split. The friend said Marsden knew how to dig. Marsden arrived at my house later that afternoon, a lean man in his 50s with tired eyes and a matter-of-fact way of speaking. He nodded as I outlined the basics. My family left me on my 50th birthday. They lied. I suspect there's more going on. Then I mentioned the men's boxers. That caught his attention. Do you have any idea who it might belong to? He asked, a pen poised over a small notebook. I shook my head, still seething inside. No clue. She was at that beach resort. My father-in-law was there, so maybe he invited someone else. Or maybe she was meeting someone else entirely. I need proof. Marsden gave a curt nod. I'll need the resort's name and any details. I'm discreet. If I have to bribe staff, I will. Just be prepared for whatever I find. Some folks regret learning the truth. Trust me, I muttered. The truth is the only thing that'll keep me sane. He headed off that same evening. 2 days later, he called me, his voice edged with excitement. Mr. Levington, I've got something. Mind if I stop by? I told him to come right away. He showed up at my doorstep with a manila envelope and a cautious look. I visited the resort, asked around. Some staff recognized your wife from pictures I showed. I managed to get a few glimpses of CCTV footage, some from the hotel bar, some from the hallway near her suite. I also spoke with a bellhop, remembered a tall man visiting your wife's room multiple times. He opened the envelope, spreading out a series of grainy black and white stills. They clearly showed Willow in a flowy dress, stepping into a hallway, leaning up to kiss a man whose face was partially visible. My heart pounded like a drum in my ears. That man was definitely bigger than me, broad shoulders, with hair just starting to gray at the temples. Marsden tapped one image. The bellhop described him as a familiar face to your wife, called her by first name, said they seemed close. I bribed him a little for more info. He said it wasn't the first time he'd seen your wife with this man. They apparently visited the same resort about a year ago. I sank into a chair, scanning each photo with trembling hands. So she's been cheating. Marsden cleared his throat. I also recognized the man from a more public social media search. His name is Gavin Rivers, a high school boyfriend of hers, if I'm not mistaken. My head shot up. Her ex from way back? Marsden nodded. Seems they reconnected. According to the bellhop, your wife and Mr. Rivers acted very comfortable, and from the accounts I gathered, it's been going on for years. 5, to be precise, from the earliest hotel records. They apparently use family vacations, ones you either don't attend or you send them on alone, to meet up, sometimes with the kids present. The staff was under the impression that your wife was a widow or separated because she always came with the father-in-law, mother-in-law, kids, and this man, Gavin. A painful, hollow sensation spread in my chest. Anger rose inside me, wave after wave, flooding my senses. 5 years, I repeated. 5 years she's been stepping out, and I was too blind to see it. Marsden exhaled. I'm sorry, Mr. Levington. I have screenshots from the CCTV footage and additional notes if you want them for your legal case. I felt the sting of tears at the back of my eyes. Not sadness, pure volcanic rage. I'm not sure I can ever use the word sorry again after this. I rubbed my temples, forcing composure. Thank you, Marsden. You've earned your fee. He left, and I stared at the photos until they blurred. My kids knew they had to. No way they wouldn't have noticed Uncle Gavin or whatever name he went by. All those times I worked extra to fund family getaways. She was with her lover, and the kids never said a word. For the rest of the day, I locked myself in my study, ignoring phone calls, ignoring the outside world. An absolute darkness took hold of my mind, urging me to get revenge. I made calls to a top lawyer, the same one I'd only casually consulted before. Now it was time to finalize everything. No more illusions. I met with a lawyer, Daniel Treadway, who specialized in high-conflict divorces. We sat in his glass-walled office, an imposing view of the city behind him. I want to cut them off, I said, voice tight. No more tuition for Piper, no more allowances, nothing. They've all betrayed me. Treadway studied me over the rim of his glasses. You must understand, courts are typically sympathetic toward children's education, but Piper is 20, right? Technically an adult. You can stop paying if you wish. She might petition for more support, but given it's not mandated child support, you have options. Good. I'm done paying for a daughter who lies to me. As for my son, I'll think about how to handle that. Maybe I'll separate him from the rest, but if he's also complicit. Treadway nodded carefully. I'll draft the necessary motions. We'll freeze joint assets, request an immediate hearing to discuss property division. Gather all your evidence, bank statements, credit card debt, the PI's findings. If you suspect your wife might try to claim a large share, we need to be ready. I handed over the folder from Marsden. Here's all the proof of her affair, possibly 5 years running. The kids knew and kept silent. Treadway flipped through the photos, grimacing. This is substantial. Courts don't always weigh infidelity heavily in property splits, but it can shape the narrative. And if she used marital funds for these rendezvous, that's a misappropriation of assets. I set my jaw. Perfect. I want that hammered home. We concluded the meeting with Treadway, promising to expedite the process. By the time I stepped back onto the street, the sun was setting. I felt eerily calm, like every nerve was no longer raw but numb. My phone buzzed, calls from Willow, Tomas, Piper. I ignored them all. 5 days ticked by in a blur. I refused to respond to any messages from Willow or the kids. Piper sent tearful voicemails. Dad, can we talk? Please. Mom, sorry. I'm sorry, we need to figure things out. Tomas left a single text. Dad, you got to stop ignoring us. Willow had sent me a flurry of messages, half angry, half apologetic. I read them all with cold detachment, never replying. On the 5th day, a pounding shook my front door. I peered through the peephole. Willow, Tomas, Piper, back again. This time no suitcases, just furious expressions. I opened the door a crack, enough to see them, but not enough to let them push past. We need to talk, Willow said, voice taut. Open the door. I stepped aside, letting them file into the living room. I noticed Tomas's face was set in a glare. Piper looked hesitant, and Willow carried an air of exasperated authority, as though I were the one who'd messed up. She folded her arms. You've ignored us for nearly a week. You've changed the locks, and Piper told me you canceled her tuition. You can't do that. I scoffed, crossing my arms. Watch me. It's my money, and I've decided that neither she nor you deserve another dime from me. Piper let out a disbelieving cry. Dad, how could you? I'm your daughter. Are you? I snapped, because from where I'm standing, a real daughter wouldn't hide the fact that her mother's been cheating for 5 years. A real daughter wouldn't celebrate my 50th birthday on a beach with her mother's lover in tow. Willow's eyes flashed. That's absurd. You're making assumptions, Norman. I don't know what private investigator you hired, but you need to ask yourself why I had to seek emotional support elsewhere. Have you ever considered that your constant controlling behavior, your obsession with finances, Made me feel suffocated? Mom, don't, Piper mumbled, tugging her mother's sleeve. Willow wrenched away. No, let me speak. If Norman had been a better provider, if he tried harder, I wouldn't have needed Otis's money, and I definitely wouldn't have been tempted to reconnect with Gavin. Gavin, I repeated, icy. So you admit it. Gavin Rivers, your old boyfriend. Piper's head snapped up. You know his name? I know more than that, I hissed, drawing a small sheaf of the PI's photos from my back pocket. Here, this is you and your boyfriend at the resort bar. This is you kissing him. This is you heading to the suite, while my father-in-law looked on like it was normal. And you, I wheeled on Piper. You sat there with your cocktail, acting like everything's peachy. You and Tomas both. Tomas barked out. We didn't ask for details, okay? I'm not some gossip. But Mom has a right to be happy. You're never around, you're always working, always yelling. Don't you dare turn this on me, I snarled. It's a double betrayal. I've given everything for this family, and the two of you kept quiet while your mother pranced around with Gavin Rivers, because you liked the trips, didn't you? The money, the fancy resorts, courtesy of Otis or whoever else was paying. Piper interjected, tears in her eyes. Dad, can't you see how miserable you made Mom? She needed to feel desirable. If you'd pay half the attention to her as you do your job, maybe none of this would have happened. Willow shot Piper a warning look, but Piper was on a roll, grief and anger fueling her words. There are men out there who can provide better, you know. That's all Mom wanted, a life that didn't revolve around your controlling ways. I felt my temper fray. Are you blaming me for your mother's affair? Tomas let out a frustrated groan. Look, Dad, it's not about blame, it's about reality. You shut down emotionally years ago. You act like some machine that just pays bills and occasionally barks orders. Mom's a human being. She messed up, but you created the situation. Stop, Willow hissed at them. Both of you, enough. We're here to solve problems, not inflame them. I barked a laugh. Solve problems? You're all telling me it's my fault you lied, cheated, and took secret trips with your ex? This is unbelievable. That's when Piper's eyes narrowed, tears brimming. She suddenly spat. And how do you know we're even your kids? You're always so sure about who does and doesn't deserve your money, always counting pennies like some miser. Maybe you should have asked yourself that question years ago, Dad. How do you know I'm even yours? An electric jolt of shock went through me. The words echoed in the living room. Willow's face turned pale. Tomas froze. Piper, Willow snapped. That's enough. Don't say something you'll regret. But Piper kept her gaze locked on me, shaking with emotion. Dad wants to talk about betrayal, about lying? Fine. I'm sick of all this. He's not the only one who's been kept in the dark. My fury ignited like a flash fire. Get out, I growled, voice shaking. Get out of my house before I do something we all regret. Willow tried to reach for Piper's arm to pull her back, but I advanced on them, picking up a decorative vase from a side table. I didn't hurl it, but I brandished it threateningly. I said out. Tomas and Piper stumbled toward the door. Willow followed, eyes wide with something between fear and desperation. I threw the vase down onto the floor, where it smashed into shards, making them flinch. You come in here, lecture me about your affair, then drop that bomb? Get out. Before I knew it, they were gone, slamming the door behind them, and I was left trembling among scattered ceramic fragments. Those last words from Piper haunted me. How do you know we're even your kids? In a rage, I refused to consider it, but in the cold silence that followed, doubt seeped in. What if she's not mine? 3 days later, I mustered the nerve to collect stray hairs from Piper's brush, left behind in her old bathroom, and a used tissue from Tomas's wastebasket. I mailed them off to a DNA testing lab, requesting 2 paternal tests, one for Piper, one for Tomas. The results arrived sooner than expected. Late one evening, a discreet envelope came in the mail. I tore it open with trembling hands, scanning for key words. Tomas Levington, 99.9% probability of paternity. Piper Levington, 0.00% probability of paternity. My head spun, the walls seemed to tilt. I sank onto the edge of the couch, rereading that final line. Piper is not my daughter. She's the daughter I doted on, the sweet kid I'd poured thousands of dollars into for tuition, the one who sometimes called me Daddy, not mine. Rage flared, but heartbreak followed in its wake. The emptiness felt bigger than anything I'd ever known. Every father-daughter moment was now tainted by that single line, 0.00%. I was alone in the living room, the lights low and a half-empty whiskey bottle on the table. Just a few sips in, but enough to feel that numb buzz creeping over me. The day's revelation still echoed in my head. Piper not mine, Willow cheating for years. The house felt cavernous and empty. My phone rested silent. No more texts, no more calls. Just me, my anger, and the knowledge I was done being a fool. Out of nowhere I heard commotion in the driveway, an engine revved, something expensive by the sound of it. Then came the slam of car doors, voices raised in agitation. I peered through the window. Otis, my father-in-law, stood there with Willow, Tomas, and Piper clustering behind him. My pulse jumped. What now? Before I could get to the door, Otis pounded on it, rattling the hinges. "Norman, open up, we're coming in," he barked. I took a moment to steady myself, then swung the door wide. They all shoved forward, Otis leading the charge with that smug tilt of his chin. "You've had your tantrum," he said, stepping in uninvited. "Now it's time you face the consequences. Stop sulking in here like a lost puppy." Willow walked around him, scanning the house as though she owned it. Tomas and Piper hovered by the entryway, their expressions ranging from shame to resentment. I locked eyes with Willow, then turned to Otis. "Care to explain why you're barging into my home?" Otis snorted, folding his arms. "Your home? Don't kid yourself, Norman. This is Willow's house too. You think you can just shut her and the kids out? I'm here to set things straight." I felt a swirl of anger surge into my throat. "Set things straight? Maybe we should talk about how you've known all along Willow's been cheating, maybe even helped her cover it up." Willow tried to hush me. "Don't start this again." I cut her off, glaring at Otis. "You want to talk about being shut out? I was shut out of my own family vacation on my birthday. Now I find out Piper isn't even mine, and you stand here telling me it's my fault?" Otis smirked. "You're the one who's never around. You're busy playing the brooding workaholic. You neglected your wife, so don't act surprised she looked for affection elsewhere. Women have needs, Norman. That's the way the world works." I clenched my fists, my heart hammered. "Stay calm," I told myself, but Otis's smug face made that impossible. "You're an enabler," I growled. "You funded Willow's trips, put on this charade, and never once told me the truth." Willow interjected. "You have no idea what it's like to feel invisible in a marriage. Maybe if you hadn't shut me out, shut you out?" I let out a bitter laugh. I poured money, time, and energy into this family. I was too trusting, that's my biggest mistake. Tomas, arms rigid at his sides, abruptly raised his voice. "Dad, calm down. Grandpa's right, you were never here. You're acting like a lunatic, throwing accusations around. Mom didn't ask for this mess. I rounded on my son." "Oh, she didn't ask for it? Then what do you call years of sneaking around with her ex, letting me raise a child that isn't mine?" Piper cringed, tears forming. "Dad, stop. You don't understand. Mom was hurting. She's not the only one to blame." Otis jabbed a finger at me. "You see, even your children see how you behave. You're the common denominator in this madness, Norman." My blood roared in my ears. "That's it," I snarled. "I have something to show you." I bolted to the side table where I'd stashed the DNA results, the same ones confirming Piper wasn't mine. I yanked them out, marched over, and flung them at Otis. The pages fluttered at his feet. "Look at that. Or have you already seen it?" Willow bent to pick them up, cheeks going pale. Otis skimmed a page, then scoffed. "So Piper's not yours. Big deal. If you'd paid attention, maybe this wouldn't have happened." "Big deal?" My hand shook. "I spent 20 years believing Piper was my child. That's the big deal. You all knew, maybe not the full details, but you suspected, and still watched me work my life away to support everyone." Otis rolled his eyes. "Spare me the sob story, Norman. If you were half a man, you'd have kept Willow from wandering. Instead, you bury your nose in spreadsheets and wonder why your wife looks elsewhere for comfort." That's when something snapped in my head. I launched forward and seized Otis by his collar. "I'm done listening to you talk like I'm trash," I roared. He gasped, trying to pry my fingers away. Willow shrieked. Tomas grabbed my arm, and Piper let out a frightened sob. "Let go of me," Otis sputtered, kicking at my shin. I held him there, rage twisting inside me, wanting to slam him down, but I caught a glimpse of Tomas's alarmed expression, and something in me let go. Otis staggered backward, face purple with fury. He lunged, hooking his hand around my shirt collar, attempting to drag me toward the door. "Fine," he hissed. "If you won't leave my daughter's house, I'll haul you out myself, you worthless excuse for a husband." We stumbled, colliding with the side table. The lamp clattered to the floor, shattering. Willow screamed, "Stop it!" Piper pulled at Otis's arm while Tomas yelled, "Grandpa, chill out, you're making it worse." I freed myself with a shove. Otis tumbled against the couch. My chest heaved, eyes darting to the corners of the room like a caged animal. Instinct took hold. I whirled around, sprinted to the closet by the hallway, and pulled out my locked Magnum case. My fingers fumbled the combination in my fury. Within seconds, I drew out my Magnum, a piece I'd kept for home defense but rarely touched. Someone gasped. Tomas shouted, "Dad, what are you doing?" I marched back into the living room brandishing the heavy magnum. "I've had enough," I barked, adrenaline surging. My heart hammered so loud I could barely hear them. Without thinking, I squeezed off 2 rounds into the ceiling. Bang, bang. Debris rained down and everyone dropped or scrambled for cover. Willow screamed, pressing against the wall. Piper's eyes went wide, tears streaming. Otis stumbled behind the couch, pale as a sheet. Tomas stood frozen, arms lifted in shock. "Get out of my house," I yelled, voice echoing. "All of you! I don't want to see a single face here again. Do you hear me? I've been taken advantage of for the last time. Get out before I lose the last shred of control I've got." They wasted no time. Otis crawled out, stumbling to his feet. Willow fumbled to grab Piper's hand, tears in her eyes but too frightened to speak. Tomas backed toward the door, hands still raised. One by one, they vanished into the night, the heavy door slamming after them. I was left, magnum still clenched in my hand, heart pounding like a war drum. The police were called, neighbors heard shots, but by the time they arrived, my house was empty except for me and the bullet holes in the ceiling. I explained it was a warning shot, an act of self-defense in my own home. They lectured me about discharging a firearm indoors and let me off with a severe warning, seeing no one had been harmed. Legally, everything unraveled fast. Willow pushed for divorce, citing my volatile behavior. I countered with paternity, fraud, detailing her years-long affair. Lawyers got involved. Depositions were filed. Both Piper and Tomas refused to testify against me, but they didn't speak to me either. I made it clear I was withdrawing all financial support, including Piper's tuition payments. If Otis or Gavin wanted to step up, so be it. I was done. A few weeks later, the divorce was finalized in an unceremonious hearing. Willow tried for spousal support but found little sympathy from the judge after the evidence of her betrayal came out. I never saw Otis again, thankfully. Piper and Tomas drifted into their own lives. I'd never forgive them for enabling that lie. In the end, I was left in a silent house with bullet holes patched in the ceiling, wrestling with the bitter truth of my life's collapse and the knowledge that sometimes a man only finds out who he is when there's nothing left to lose.